Hello again. Welcome into another episode of The Works. I'm Jim.
I'm Diane.
And so this is, fortunately, my first thought was this is like that part two of what we were talking about, but the first thing I really thought of was this is the jumping the shark episode. You know, when they did part one and part two. Now, I'm hoping it's not like what jumping the shark meant for Happy Days and being what, you know, made John Hine a career in
coining that phrase
and selling it and selling the website. But this is the continuation of us hopefully not jumping the shark. We were talking last time about the food pyramid that earlier this year the government re-released and said we basically got it upside down. What it really, I think it amounts to is that as we humans are starting to evolve, maybe, I'm hoping,
or devolve.
Or again, you know, sucking at the teat of government because everything they say is right, or, you know, is omnipresent in our lives. The notion, the food pyramid that for years we thought one way, now we literally flipped it upside down.
Right. And South Park was correct.
And protein. Well, and the key is
protein.
And
fat. The body needs fat too. So forget the low fat craze.
So along that same line, I did, you know, it's data driven thought here. The idea of, well, we have a food pyramid. At the core of the food pyramid is a calorie, is what all of us, you know, many languages in the world, but, you know, the one thing that is kind of standard is
the calorie. Yeah, and everybody reads the nutrition label. But
only until the 70s did the FDA require that, and there's been several iterations of what the label looks like and formats, et cetera. But at the core of that is this thing called the calorie, which is a unit of energy that can be derived from food. And so my thought, not to stir the pot, but again, to give us maybe a different perspective on all that went into the original food pyramid, then food pyramid version 2 that said protein and fats. My whole thing is, are we really counting calories the right way? And so I tried to present this notion and used a recent published study from Arizona State University that took the original calorie system and decided to expand it a bit. Whereas with the now almost 140-year calorie system developed by Atwater, who actually took, you know, food items and put them in this device and they burned it.
Yeah, you get a hunk of meat and you burn it.
You know, specifically measuring the heat generated for calories, and in essence,
1 degree temperature of water.
So yes, and they basically distilled that down to fats, carbs, proteins, and alcohols that are the basic building blocks, if you will, of where energy comes from the human body perspective.
And that each one has a different caloric value.
Correct.
Depending on whether it's a meat, a carb,
correct,
a fat.
Right.
Okay.
So again, with all of that said, so my whole premise is to, you know, get us thinking along the lines of, well, does that make sense? And then lo and behold, where I've, you know, often thought that since all of our devices are listening, they took that. Someone's actually listening to the podcast.
Yeah. Wow.
And then, so Arizona State University decided to come up with, well, everyone's different. And so they developed this thing called, and let me look through my notes, the DAM model, which stands for digestive. I just love the acronym.
DAM.
Digestive absorption and microbiome metabolicism. Digestive absorption and microbiome metabolism. So that's DAM. And what that does is basically takes what humans do, and of course this does vary from person to person to a certain degree.
Depending what's in their gut, yeah.
Yes. So what they discovered and published recently is that your digestive tract, most of the absorption occurs in that upper intestine area. Stomach is for storage and breaking it down. Upper intestines do this, lower intestines do that. But, and this is where I was wanting to take the conversation. But depending on, again, individual, but let's just, again, in generic say, hey, look, the majority of the calories that are absorbed from an energy perspective are in the upper intestines. That, I think, is a standard that we've all accepted. And of course, I don't want to go into that wormhole. Is that really true? But again, we'll assume a couple of things. Most of that absorption of energy, upper
happens
intestines.
there.
Exactly. Colon is like second, apparently. And again, the stomach does a little bit of absorption, but most of it's in the intestine. Well, here's the thing. So as you know, we've gone in circles with, the industry, and by the industry, I do mean the business, the diet industry. For years it was low fat, then it was high protein, then it was let's add some fiber to it, because that was the one thing that changed Atwater a bit. So all those years, finally in the 70s, did they take in consideration that a fiber gram
behaves differently
and could, in essence, simple math, negate a carb gram. So if again, in a lot of these diets and a lot of this, Weight Watching is around counting units. Richard Simmons had the fun one, the deal a meal.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Richard. But the idea of fiber changing that dynamic a bit, thrilling that they finally in the 70s decided to look at this calorie thing a little bit differently. But my point, so what Arizona State has done is they've taken what digestive absorption occurs and applied that in this DAM model, digestive absorption, microbiome, metabolism. And so if that's the case, then again, here's the wrinkle. And this is why I think we maybe need to rethink the whole thing. And I'm going to go down the path of why and how it's completely wrong. But when you eat something that's got high in fiber, that's to help it pass through to get to the lower intestines and colon, where most of the energy, most of that nutrient is going to be absorbed, which the reality is that isn't the case. It's nearly 140 more calories of something a day that you eat. 80% of that is absorbed in the upper intestines.
Okay.
So if you got fiber in that's blocking that absorption, because that's what fiber does.
Right.
That's why
it takes a while to break down, so it gets absorbed later.
So those nutrients from fiber end up helping you poop better, right? I mean, that's the whole point of the fiber piece of it. So, and since I've done a lot of research, and of course that is problematic, and then I end up finding myself on YouTube or Foot Locker, the reality of I wanted to present this notion of we really need to rethink the actual individual unit of protein, carb, fat, and fiber. And I'm going to only take it from the argument of protein.
Okay.
So from a protein argument, what do we get our proteins from?
Cow, chicken, pork, fish.
Meat.
Yeah,
meat and fish. And of course, there's whey protein, there's legumes, but for the most part, and this is why, again, my argument from a general perspective is let's dissect protein and how I think that we've actually made this worse for us, that we aren't really eating a protein gram of energy, but it's more a carb grab, because as you know, beef, where we get all of our protein,
the majority of it. Right? They're not being grass fed anymore. I mean, grass has
protein. The protein. As a matter of fact, so again, let me bring up my.
So they eat grass. It goes in and it becomes the meat.
Right. So of course, there's two sides to this, and this is where again government has everything to do with it. You have the Corn Consortium, who don't want you to know that from the non-corn consortium, that if you compare the things that cows eat, they go into their feed, right? That become our feed, right? So in essence,
we had seen in that that documentary, Corn King or King of Corn, that when they tested their hair, they had so much corn.
The people.
In if people, because of all the things that we eat, that our beef is they're fed this corn that they use to make high fructose corn syrup, that and they feed it to the cows to fatten up to get to market sooner. So they're eating this high sugar corn, whereas before they used to eat grass. So if we're eating these cows and it shows up in our hair that there's so much corn, how much is the protein?
Well, so to your point, and this is why, again, I wanted to take it from, I'm not trying to knock down the whole counting thing. I just think many years have gone by and we really need to revisit the notion of what is a gram of fat, gram of protein, gram.
Right.
And so, and this is why I think as a nation that we are getting bigger, because I think it truly comes down to the fact that
it's not quality meat anymore.
We're not getting the quality protein. And maybe
that we think we were getting.
And maybe that's
140 years ago, maybe it was real meat.
Oh, well, let's and okay, so I was going to make the joke about, Soylent Green coming true. The beauty there, and like with this engineered protein, right, that they're trying to do or make cost effective, and plant-based protein versus, again, for those that animal lovers, which we are, the idea of having something that's controllable, to me, almost makes sense. And I'm not saying that we all eat the same thing like Soylent Green, but here's my point: the industry has changed dramatically. That is, we all love our meat. We all love chicken breasts, right? And that's part of what the Corn King thing that you brought up is an interesting take on that. If you remember in the 70s, just as a reminder, in the 70s, chicken breasts were expensive. And there weren't a lot of them, because let's face it, there's more dark meat, I guess, on a natural chicken than there is white meat.
Right, until we
discovered that we were told cholesterol is bad. So here's another hole. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. Right,
and cholesterol is bad.
So we all wanted chicken breast and not the dark meat. So that's why, of course, they're feeding all these. And they have
the breed of chicken that they have to be butchered because they are so top heavy. Their breasts are so big.
So literally the reason that the corn industry, or one in particular, the Nebraska Corn Board, you should check out the lady that's part of or in charge of the nest. I'm sure she likes her corn, but all the industries around corn, 70% of the corn in this country is grown and bought by the government for all those other things, for feed and for corn syrup, and of course that's a whole fun rabbit hole to go down. But so the point I'm trying to make with the corn and feeding it to cows is, as you point out with chickens, it fattens them up awfully quick,
gets them to market sooner.
And so here's going into the nutrition side of what my argument is: the fact that the corn industry says you can have up to 20-25% of the cow's diet as corn. And as a matter of fact, they've come out with the cute terms that I think we've all been, confused about at the store. So there's corn-fed beef, and there's grass-finished beef, there's grass-fed beef, and so, of course, what is better, corn-fed or grass-fed? And it actually gets into, there's technical definitions about how only in the last portions of their lives
do they get to eat grass.
And that doesn't, into their term, grass-finished beef.
I had never heard that one. That's
maybe it's something new that they've all come up with, but it's for those that have eaten grass their entire lives. During the last part of their lives, for gaining weight, they put them on the corn diet. So they've, for the most part, been fed grass, but they're being finished with something else. So I don't understand the point, but the biggest argument the corn industry has is that apparently, according to them, that they've interviewed or surveyed people, that corn-fed beef tastes better than grass-fed beef.
Because it's more tender.
It's way more tender. Because why? Corn that is grown for feed is mostly a carb.
Right.
So let's get down again. So my whole argument here is distilling this at the lowest common denominator. So it used to be cows were eating and grazing on grass. Which has
protein.
3 times the protein that
this
corn does. On top of the fact that this corn is even more deficient. And as a matter of fact, let me look at my notes. One of the interesting things is that the corn that they eat is, and I didn't realize this either, and you probably did, amino acids, that's the only thing that the human body cannot produce and has to get from its diet.
Okay.
So, typical corn has isolene, theroline, then forgive me, look, I'm looking at, the corn of the past, or grass, as a matter of fact, I'll just use grass,
had all the amino acids.
Had 5 of the 8 that the human body needs.
Okay.
And in this low protein corn, there's only lecithin, theremin, and valine, which are the only ones that, and again, they're in such insignificant levels that what they're eating necessarily, I'm not saying that their bodies need the same amino acids that ours do.
But considering we eat them,
we're eating that.
Yeah.
Whereas we used to get that from the corn, from the grass that they used to graze on, we'd eat the beef, and then that would ultimately...
And it was better quality for us. Yeah.
There's no question. And that's changed. So I guess as I was trying to...
Is our protein today the same as the protein that they did the research on 140 years ago? It's not the same.
So that's the funny part, is that if you look at the FDA and all of this nutrition labeling, right? And again, it's clean, it's as pure as day, fda.usda.gov. And there they have what they call Food Data Central, which is a huge database that has, I mean, literally you could type in,
whatever you want and it'll tell you.
And it was a little bit of manipulation, but so here is what they refer to as when somebody brings a product to market. Mm-hmm. So in this case, I'm just going to say ground beef because I'm using protein and cows as the example. And when in 2013, when they set this database up, they took what they represented as the Atwater model for ground beef, which was for each 100, and this is all about 100 grams. For each 100 grams, there's 17 grams of protein, 20 grams of fat, of course, no carbs, etc. But the key there is the 17.5 grams of protein in beef. Now, as we've seen in some of these documentaries about, slaughtering of cows and mass producing ground beef, and, in particular, one of my thoughts was, too, if you think about it, most of the ground beef that we Americans consume is fast food ground beef, which is way more processed than the ground beef you're getting from your local grocery store.
Right.
But even notwithstanding that, so a pound of ground beef, surprisingly, across different chains, has different protein values, which is shocking to me. So if you look on their database, and this is all based on an 80-20, 80%.
Okay, because I was just going to say, does it depend on...
It's all
80-20, and it varies, even though they're all 80-20.
So, at Kroger, and I'm not picking on anyone, just giving an example that these numbers make no sense to me, and yet we're basing this and all this and putting it on a nutrition label, which we're all reading,
and taking
and realizing
gospel.
that you're only allowed to have 2 fig Newtons or whatever, right? But we realize that, maybe what we're doing, which seems to make sense, we're truly being misrepresented by the numbers. So, Kroger, if again, the Atwater standard for 100 grams of 17.5, Kroger is 18.6.
Okay, how'd they do that?
I don't know. If you look at Wegmans, 21.4.
Wow, they must have grass-fed.
So you go into this database and you start to get more deep into it. A pound of ground beef that is 100% grass-fed beef, the amount of protein in it is almost 25 grams per the 100. Significantly different. Now, again, if you look at the carb number, what was the trick that we heard about any of these manufacturers that present a product and have it analyzed? If it's got less than five,
you do 0
right,
per serving. Per serving. So it does. Most
at
people,
100 grams, there's very little carb that's going to show up anyway, and if it's less than 5, everyone goes with 0.
Right.
So that's the thing that makes almost no sense to me, is from a pure caloric perspective, they're kind of the same across the board as far as that, again, typical 100 grams. 140 calories for 100 grams of 80/20 ground beef, of which in the Wegmans case, like I said, it's 24, 25 grams.
Right.
In the Kroger case, it's 18, but that mound of ground beef that they used based on Atwater was 19. So again, I'm just, these numbers are confusing.
Right. And if you're trying to figure out, you're supposed to have all this protein and you're truly not getting the protein that you think you are.
I guess that's not an argument. It's just that I think it's amazing with the internet and the mass media, the ability that we all have to broadcast a thought. I find it strange that this information that we've all subjected ourselves to, I'm not saying it's completely wrong, but we're making decisions based on information that's incomplete.
Correct.
And inconsistent. Data-driven, my ass. And why hasn't AI figured this out? Why doesn't AI help us uncover the mysteries of freaking food, nutrition, energy, the core unit of that, how these microbial, microbes in your system affect that, and again, using the cow example, if indeed those amino acids that are in the building blocks of food energy, whether it's grass, whether it's corn, naturally occurring things that we humans have ingested for
eons.
Exactly.
But the corn that they're feeding the cows, it's not consumed. We can't consume it.
We can't eat that corn.
It isn't for humans.
No.
So, but we're going to eat cows that are eating things that humans can't eat.
What's interesting is part of that shell that has the protein in it. It's zein or zyne. It's zein, and that's where, of the 8 building blocks of amino acids, if you will, they're all there. It's just that, again, when you digest it, when you eat it, there's certain ones you can absorb, you can't absorb. But again, that's where, from an amino acid perspective, we humans do rely on intake.
Right.
We
and
need
does that affect what you absorb?
Well, so I think that's something to consider, is that if what we've come to, I think, coin the phrase, that your rotting gut, I think, is something that don't they talk about that when it comes to the cleanse, that you clean your gut's rotting, you got to do a cleanse, which is fun just in itself. But the whole idea of
drive your ass by the car wash, a colon cleanse.
That's what a colon cleanse is. But that's what's confusing to me. And again, I'm not trying to. Where's the humor? Where's the humor in our conversations? As a sidetrack, here's a fun one. So, speaking of AI, and this is the reason that I know I never accomplish anything, because you're always moving on to something else. So, I typed in, because we talked about this, the works. I want somebody with Alexa to do this. Because you can say, Alexa, play the latest episode of The Works. Or what is there's a phrase that I finally figured out. I think it's the one. Long story short. So with Google, I decided to ask the question, The Works podcast on Spotify, latest episode with Jim and Diane. So their answer was, the latest episode of The Works for podcast on Spotify, hosted by Jim and Diane, is titled Hot for Teacher, which is not true, but that's okay.
At least it found something.
And then it asks a question, would you like to know about their background?
Oh, I'd love to see what my background is.
This is great. Then, sorry, I'll put a pin on the whole calorie thing. So it asks the question, would you like to know about, It says the personal professional histories and bios for Jim and Diane are not publicly published or detailed in the online metadata for the works. Now, what a great sentence that is. First of all, it's just bullshit. We don't know.
Right.
Unknown. I mean, but it goes on. The creators mainly have a high anonymity or independent presence online. However, their professional perspectives can be understood through their content. This is the fun part. The answer, two answers. Thematic focus is that they frame the podcast through a metaphorical tagline, like the works of a clock where the gears turn the hands, making the passing of time. Our podcast talks about how our experiences and ideas make our time together. Now, you wrote that, did you not?
Yes.
Specific. So, in itself, it hasn't really done anything.
Right.
It's stating kind of the obvious, which I think, I don't even know why it has to make sentences for stating absolutely nothing. But, okay. Then the second thing is subject expertise. They leverage a background in professional workplace dynamics and employment affairs as heard in discussions centered around office culture, job placement, and other career paths. What the hell does that mean? I don't know. Because they keep their real world because they keep their real world identities private outside of the audio feed, their official Spotify page or individual episode intros are primarily places where they share personal anecdotes or career history. And then then this is the cool part about Google's AI. Is that Gemini? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask that later. So are you trying to track down a specific career story they shared, or would you like a list of other episodes where they dive into specific industries? I said specific career stories.
Okay.
Because remember, they couldn't find anything on us. So, because Jim and Diane do not publish text summaries, detailed breakdowns, or timestamps of their personal anecdotes online, which actually isn't true because there's a transcript that AI does. But apparently that AI doesn't talk to this AI yet.
What snobs?
Completely. And is it AI, them, thee, them, there? I don't want to get into that crap. But anyway, it gives two examples. So listen to the latest episode in their release, Hot for Teacher. They explicitly build as an employment conversation where they lean into career dynamics. Now, they're using my favorite buzzwords, right?
Yeah.
So lean.
Yeah, lean into. Yeah.
And then the second thing is stream via official platforms. You can browse their full catalog and find past episodes directly on the Spotify show page or Apple Podcasts. Now, technically, we've only put it on Spotify. I've figured out how to do APIs between the other platforms.
Well, no, you do the RSS feed. That's how I got us on Apple and Pandora.
I understand that.
And all of that.
Right. But I guess the point is who's hosting.
Right.
And
Spotify is where it's parked.
Or in this case, if it thinks Hot for Teacher was the last one, that's wrong. Anyway. And then what did I ask? Other podcasts. Oh, and then they bring out, they start going down the path of a couple others. I asked the Microsoft AI, which I think is Copilot, right?
Is it Copilot or Gemini?
I don't know.
Oh.
Well, Gemini is
Microsoft is Copilot.
Anyway, the browser. So basically, I asked the same question in the Microsoft browser, and the Copilot response was, latest episode of The Works on Spotify. The most recent episode of The Works hosted by Jim and Diane, which is cool that they did that, is titled AI-RIP, that's exactly right. Released May 27th. And so it gives the title, the release date, the duration, and the theme. And the theme, and I'm going to ask you this. Did you write this? The theme, Jim makes a compelling argument that AI will fizzle out in the next couple of years. Did you use that phrase?
I might have.
Okay.
I don't
He
recall.
discusses the statistic that AI usage has increased partly because tools like Microsoft's Copilot are now bundled into Microsoft Office licensing, making AI accessible to every business office. Now, I did say that very specifically.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, we got feedback on that, and we can talk about that later. But about the podcast, The Works is an episodic Society and Culture podcast. Now that's bullshit too, because they force you into a category.
You have to pick
which
a
I'm
category.
not happy with that category. But where Jim and Diane explore a wide range of topics from technology and social trends to travel, hobbies, and everyday life. Okay, seriously, you can put anything in that.
Right.
As a subject. Episodes are typically 30 minutes to 45 minutes long and are released roughly every 5 days. Well, I'll be damned. How about that?
Wow.
We're only working every 5 days.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, I'm kidding, but I thought that was interesting. So back to the whole calorie. I just think that we need, since there has been this year alone emphasis on food pyramid being wrong or upside down, the caloric intake energy is part of it, but by digesting, absorbing it into the human body, that's a key. It's amazing to me it took us 140 years to figure that out. And now I'm just adding on, I'm piling on, if you will, the notion that we really need to think about what we based all of this on to begin with, which is almost anecdotally can't be right. That the protein that we're getting from cows, or the major portion of our diet,
it's not the same as it was
right. 140 years ago. So that must mean it's all wrong. That's all I'm saying, just to keep it
simple.
Just to keep it funny. Speaking of funny.
Oh, God.
Okay. Why can't I find, and somebody help me here, I have a standard kitchen trash can. Yet, I can't find frickin' bags that fit inside the trash can in the plastic part. I don't understand. I'm buying the 13, it's a 13-gallon trash bag that we bought from IKEA. Now, I think that's probably the problem.
That's probably
because
a
it's probably
different
not
standard.
13. Well, we all know that it's not 13-gallon. It's in liters. And that's a topic I want to bring up later, is that even today the government tracks how much money they spend on having to convert things that what we were supposed to during Jimmy Carter's day.
Yeah, back in the 70s.
We all learned, and we were all forced to learn, that metrics, which are way
easier.
Well, they make more sense.
Yeah.
So everything's based on a 1.
And 10s.
1, 10.
Yeah.
Ones and zeros, like binary. But the whole idea that I can't find a trash bag to fit. And but here's my other argument. How much time does the actual trash bag sit in the trash can or hung from a handle in the kitchen?
Because it wasn't full.
Because it wasn't full to begin. Because as soon as you pull the damn bag out,
you're like, I can put more stuff in it.
I can put more stuff in it.
Hey, whatever happened to trash compactors? Do we no longer do that because we're all recycling? Well, that was kind of nice.
So here's the mindset of us.
What happened?
Here's the mindset of us Gen Xers. Recently, we rented a place for a week, and we pulled out their trash drawer, which, again, great idea. A cabinet inside your kitchen that you pull out that your trash cans
I like
are in.
that.
Love it. Of course, there's 2 of them. Of course, Gen X thinks, cool, I can fill one up and fill the other one up.
And I don't have to take it out right away. I can let it sit in there.
No, but see, I've been sitting on this one for a while. I have a feeling one's for recycle and the other's for trash.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, why did we just willy-nilly throw trash in them?
Because
we're Gen X and we don't give a shit. No, that's not it. No, because in
our
reality,
our little
recycling makes no sense.
Yeah,
it doesn't.
We just need to put things in wax-lined cardboard or glass.
True story. Again, not trying to get anybody in trouble or upset with me. When we first moved to where we currently live,
little small town.
No, I don't. My daughter's cringing because I'm going to dox myself. That's a whole other topic. But so we sign up for trash service, and they asked, "Would you like how many cans would you like?" And I said, "Not here, but in the bathroom." No, 2. I'll take 2 cans. And she said, "Lady said, would you like a recycling can too?" I said, "Oh, you recycle here? Do you have to?" She said, "No." I said, "So how's that work? That you put your certain recycling things in?" Because even recently, I don't know if you noticed, there are commercials talking about how we've been recycling the wrong recyclables.
Right,
of
you're
course
putting
makes me
things that
think
aren't recyclable in the
recycling.
recyclables.
So
yeah.
now they're upset with us that we're trying to do. Anyway, story. Would you like to have a recycling can? I said, well, I mean, I guess I could save, sure, I could help save the planet, right? Little old me doing my job, putting recycling things. Now, of course, like aluminum cans and cardboard, all that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, are there 2 different days that's picked up or 2 different trucks? She says, no. I said, well, how's that work? She said, we just put them all together.
In the same truck.
In the same truck. I go, I said, then,
How do you know
how does
which
that
one?
work? She says, it just makes people feel better.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. Okay. And then recently, we visited the Lake Lure area, which was devastated by Helene almost 2 years ago. And I should post some pictures of, there's still homes that are hanging half over a cliff because the water was just devastating to Chimney Rock in that area. But on the way back, and I have an old-fashioned GPS. Recently, we were getting our oil changed, and they commented how cute it was that I had a GPS.
Yeah.
Why?
Because everybody uses their phone.
Okay, whatever. But of course, here's the funny part: is who would be laughing last? Because especially in a lot of these, very mountainous areas,
We didn't have cell coverage.
you don't have cell coverage. So guess what? The GPS actually still works. But okay, I'm not going to argue with that. So I had set the GPS up, and it was taking me the way I didn't really want to go. You ever have that argument with the GPS?
Yeah, why are you going that way?
Why are we going this way? I want to go this way.
Right.
But Google always tends to offer more than 2. There's always there's a toll road option, there's the fastest option, and then there's the shortest option.
Right.
Which is the one that has the little leaf that makes it, all natural, organic-y, or whatever, I'm going to look, or green. So I decided, and it was a straighter shot to take the, quote, most eco-friendly route.
Oh, okay.
That's the word I'm looking for, with the little leaf. And it was because it would save us like 10 miles. My issue with a lot of this stuff, and my issue with this one coming back from Lake Lure area in Chimney Rock was that it took us on maybe what was technically the shortest route back home, but by far was the most dangerous route with roads that Amish people we don't have Amish people, but not that many. They were tiny roads.
Yeah.
And then people in their
monster
Dodge
trucks.
Chargers and literally, it was like being in a NASCAR circuit. It was horrible.
That Dodge Charger that was just going at least 100 miles an hour.
More than that, but notwithstanding. And my issue with Google Maps is who's programming this shit? How many times have we gone to the same Myrtle Beach all the time?
And it's never the same path.
It's never the same path. It's not like they're making roads that fast. They're
Right.
not. And how many times? Or maybe we should put me on, dementia watch, because I find myself constantly saying I have no idea where I'm at.
Yeah,
I'm going down roads that we haven't gone down before. So anyway, the whole idea of, hey, we finally decided to ask questions about the food pyramid, and we got an answer that was wrong. And researchers are looking into the fact that, well, we've been counting calories the same way for 140 years. Maybe we need to rethink that thought. I'm just trying to pile on, or at least maybe spur all those that are listening, that we should look at the core components that made those systems up, which again is the whole notion of what Atwater based, the calorie on, notwithstanding that's not the actual energy unit that the rest of science uses, right?
Right.
Calorie
Calories
versus joule. So
not the vape joule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So coming up, I mentioned doxing. We are going to start doing video for the podcast, which I had to set up, and I was testing it earlier. And that's when I was informed that I'm doxing myself, which I'm not, but that's
I don't know
neither-
how by seeing inside our office, you know where.
Well, maybe AI will be able to figure out something. I'll put
Oh.
some hints on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Or just,
Could be a
fun stuff
giant
in the
riddle.
background. Yeah.
Yeah, for all
Like in
those
a s-
internet sleuths.
Well, here's the fun thing is I think it would be nice, not necessarily. Oh, by the way, just to warn you,
Mhm.
you know how they say, television ad 10 pounds. The internet's cameras are much more sophisticated, and they add like 40. So
yeah, I noticed that.
You're an asshole.
No, I did. I was like, oi.
Anywho, yeah, we're gonna try that. Well, we've been testing that, and that's coming. I bought a clapper board, which is everyone in the house was enamored with the clapper.
Clap on.
Nope, not that clapper. The movie cliche clapper. It's called a clapper board.
Oh.
That's what that thing is.
I thought it was you would do this and it would start. I'm an idiot.
And we can, you know what?
I'm like, that's great because we're busy doing something. All you got to do is.
Well, that's literally what, hey, Alexa.
I know.
What's easier, clapping or just saying, hey, Alexa,
Yeah.
to turn shit on and off?
But
So-
that's just waves, sound waves. It's not detecting a voice. It's not listening for a
Who
certain
knows
phrase.
what yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess technically that's what
See,
it was.
now you got me triggered.
Oh, your floor is yours if you choose. But so yeah, those are a couple things that we still want to do,
Mhm.
and maybe and we'll test AI out again and see if maybe they come up with anything else that.
Well, and it was great because we got an email about somebody that can speak about how they use AI in their business and architecture
No,
firm.
no, I'd be thrilled.
And it was very interesting. The email was very well written, and my inquisitive self, I'm like, was this written? It sounded like it was an AI written email because it was so well written.
Yeah.
And how did you find the podcast? What platform did you listen to it on? Or did AI give you an overview? I hate to be so cynical, but.
And before I leave you, because this is the fun part of having ADHD, we were talking about corn, right?
Mhm.
Corn being the basis of what cows eat, how that doesn't have the protein that grass has. And we didn't realize this until we actually grew corn ourselves for the first time, that typically you're only expected to get one ear, maybe two.
Right.
And the two would come from the end rows.
The end rows.
And
Because they're
why
not
is-
overcrowded.
Well, so that's the interesting thing, right? So how the stalk works, 60 to 100 days for it to get big enough that the tassel comes, right?
Mm-hmm.
The silk's already under that first leaf. And if it, again, stays active enough, a second leaf with silks will appear. Of course, each silk, and here's my fun facts. Each of those silks, as you know, when the tassel releases its pollen, self-pollinating, that pollen from the top
Uh-huh.
hits a silk, and that silk
Is
becomes
one
a one
kernel?
kernel of corn
That
under
is
the leaf.
so cool.
But here's the fun part.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's all about the laugh. When you get those ears of corn that look like, what was the phrase we used to? Well, no, that wasn't the phrase we used. It was like eating corn through a barbed wire fence or something
Yeah.
to that effect. Or I guess maybe that was a dig if you didn't have straight teeth that you could eat that. When you have
an overbite, you can eat corn on the cob through a chain link fence.
So okay, that's
Yeah, I had an
sorry, that's what the
overbite,
joke was. And of course, I'm still. If anyone knows the joke for the punchline, dictate. Every time I say the word dictate, I still laugh because that's. I
And
know
we
it's
don't
a
know what the
punchline
joke
for the
is.
joke.
Yeah.
It's like rectum ding near killed him. That's
Yeah.
the punchline. I really didn't know that, but so the ears of corn that aren't nice and straight rows.
Uh-huh.
That's because that the stalk or the male part, the top
Mm-hmm.
that has the pollen in it that hits the silk. That unfortunately, the next one when it started to grow, something happened along the way. It died. So sometimes you have ears of corn that have a space here, a bigger corn. It's all because of how the top parts pollination dust hits the silk, and it maybe forms an incomplete or even a missing one. It's possible that it's missing. So believe it or not, I guess if you had the time, I'm gonna say how you could put a number on them, but literally they're lined up, and that's how they're making that row. And so the one right next to you, if it didn't get pollinated right, tends to be the funny one, or the as you put it. But yeah, there's nothing worse. We had tried it one year.
Yeah,
It
waited
takes
and waited and
it's
waited.
60 to 110 days for it to get mature enough so that you get the tassel and
the damn raccoons got it.
ate we had 6 up.
We had more than that.
8 maybe tops.
Yeah.
But see, that's another thing too, and I didn't realize this with corn because again, you'd think with a plant that size, for Christ's sake, one tomato plant could produce
a gazillion.
60 tomatoes.
Yeah.
And multiple times too. We learned about indeterminate and determinate.
The corn is one and done.
I mean, and that thing has roots that I swear. I mean, you've seen bad storms, and yes, the stalks get bent over, but they're pretty strong.
Right. And then those bastard raccoons.
They ended up taking the only corn that we had.
Yeah. Pain in the butt.
But yeah, so technically you can get multiple, and what they suggest, and this is why they plant corn in rows, is that gives the one next to it opportunity to drop its stuff on the one that's in another row, because technically they're just self-pollinating.
Oh, so you just, like buckshot, you scatter and you hope for the best.
I think that's called something else in those naughty movies.
Okay.
Buckshot. Yeah, that's what it is. Anywho, well, now that I mentioned that, I'll probably need a moment to myself. So I guess until next time, this is Jim.
I'm Diane.
And this has been another edition of The Works.